Hello friends, in this video we are going to learn about the application initialization in Adobe Commerce. First of all, you need to know that pub folder is the folder where you would be mounting the domain for your client, or if you're making a demo website, this is the domain, this is the place where you point your domain. And for any PHP application, if there is an index.php file that resides in this folder or the folder where the domain is mounted, that file would be automatically called. So this index.php file will be triggered as soon as you hit the domain name into your browser's URL. Let's say in our demos, we are using magento2.docker. So as soon as we hit this domain name, our index.php file is the first file that is being called. And if you see this file, we load one more file within that is called bootstrap.php. And if we find this file, then everything is good. Otherwise, Magento will be throwing the exception. And once this file is found, then we create an instance of this file, and then a create application function is called from this file, which is essentially a PHP class. So a create function is called, and under that, HTTP class as a input parameter is passed because we want to create an application instance which would be loaded in the browser. And then bootstrap run function is called to run the application. But this looks very simplistic. What really happens in bootstrap.php may be a bit more interesting. So let's go in that. This file is available under app folder and the name is bootstrap.php. So we'll just go to the app and look for bootstrap.php file. If you see this particular file, on top we have just error reporting and the basic stuff about the PHP version check and so on. And then you would find that this file again loads one more important file, which is called autoload.php. And this file resides within the same folder. So if you see in the left sidebar, just besides the bootstrap.php, we have autoload.php. Now let's open this file as well. So what does this file do is, as the name indicates, it's loading multiple classes. But to load multiple classes, this is also using some other, folder path. So again, we would have one more file, app etc vendor.php. So let's just try to trace this back. So we'll go to app, then etc, and then now we have vendor path.php. So you can see that we have a vendor path named as vendor. So what is happening in this file is this auto load is saying that on this vendor path, if there is a file, load that. So which is the path? Vendor. Dot vendor is, that means it's outside of this folder. So we'll go to the vendor path and then we'll try to load some file. But which file? So you can see we have a vendor directory, and under the vendor directory, this application will try to load another autoload.php file. So that means we should have a vendor folder somewhere. And then within that vendor folder, we should have a autoload.php file. Let's just go towards the bottom. And here we can see one more autoload.php file. And this autoload.php file looks like it is using Composer. So as you know that we installed our Adobe Commerce application via Composer. So whenever you install any project with Composer, this autoload.php file is generated. So if we need to make or modify any configuration, we have to do it via Composer JSON file. So let's just go back and see if we have anything else in the composer.json that may be interest of us. So let me open this composer.json file now. And here, actually, I want you to focus on to this particular section, auto load. Under here, you would see file section, and files. You can see that apart from all the files that we have loaded, the system is also trying to load app etc non-composer component registrar.php file as well. So let's just open that file as well. And then we will try to connect all the dots together. So we have non-composer component registrar. Let me just open that as well. And looks good. So now what this says is that it's doing again, this is a definition about this particular class. But still, this is again loading one more file. So let's just open that as well. Mm. And this is the area where I wanted you guys to, come. So what is happening is, let's just go back to the very first file. So index.php is loaded. Index.php loads this bootstrap.php, and then bootstrap.php further load this autoload.php. This autoload.php defines the vendor path with this vendor path.php, and then try to load this autoload.php from the vendor folder. So now we have this autoload.php. This autoload.php comes with composer. So that means if there is any configuration that we need to see in a more readable way, we can see that under composer.json. So we came to the composer.json, and we can see that system would automatically load this file as well. So non-composer component registrar.php file is also loaded. And under this file, when we came, we can see that it is loading certain component, but it is also calling one more file. And let's go to that file now. And this file is essentially just an array. So Magento team could have defined the array in here as well, but they have created a separate file. There can be, certain reasons behind this. But if you see this array, it's saying there are certain locations. So app, code, and then there should be one folder. So star represents whatever is the folder name. The second star represents the second layer of folder name. And then under these two folders, there should be a file CLI commands.php or registration.php. Or if you are under app design, then there is one folder, two folder, three folder, and then a registration.php. So whenever you are loading an app, you are essentially calling these files which would be loaded into the system. And let's go one step back now. Let's go to the non-composer component registrar. So what it is doing is it's getting that array from this registration globalist and kind of setting all the basic location where our key files would reside in the system. Okay, and then once it gets all of these files, it tries to load those files, and it sends this information because it's being configured under composer.json. It sends all of this information to autoload.php, and autoload.php loads all the PHP files and classes that needs to be loaded in order to run our application. And to reach to that autoload.php, we use another autoload which was under our app etc folder. So just make sure that you understand the difference between this autoload PHP, which is under the app folder, and the other autoload.php, which is under the vendor folder. And once all these files are accumulated together, then everything goes back to this bootstrap.php. And what bootstrap.php do is it collects all of those files and try to create the instances of those classes and kind of load all of those classes in the system. And what happens is, if let's go to one of the Magento module, let's go to, let's say, vendor, and then under the vendor we would have Magento, and in this folder you would have all the Magento, out of the box folder. So if we go to Magento Cloud Composer, well, not the right solution. Maybe let's just go to some, yeah, let's just go to advanced search module. So in here you would find that this is the modules folder, and under the module folder we would have etc folder, and you see we have module.xml in here. And if we see, we have a composer.json alongside this, and we have a registration.php file which is parallel to all this. So our system was looking for registration.php files. Let's just go back to this global file where we are listing. So most of the time you would find this registration.php file is loaded, and that registration.php file is under this, etc folder. Sorry, not yeah, under this etc folder, you have find this registration.php file. But we wanted to go back to our Magento module. So under the Magento module, what we have is module name, and then under the module name, we have this registration.php file. Okay, so it is essentially trying to load this kind of registration.php file from here, and within this registration.php, you would see that a component registrar is there, which register this component in the system. And as soon as this component registrar register the component in the system, this component is available for processing. So right now we just check this module advanced search. But let's say if you're running the website's front end, then if there is a module for searching, this or via this autoloader, all these registration.php files are accumulated together. And whenever any registration.php file is being called, all those components are registered in the system. And that's where Magento collects all of those components together and finally come back to the bootstrap.php and bootstrap the application and gives you the response. Let's just try to simplify this once again. I'll just use any file that we have opened here. So what we have discussed is, first of all, the system will call index.php, and from here it loads the bootstrap.php file. So, and when it reaches to the bootstrap.php file, then it tries to, to bootstrap the application, it tries to load all the components that are there in the system. For loading all the component, it has to go through autoload.php. And once it loads autoload.php with help of Composer, all the components that are available within this vendor folder that comes out of the box from Magento, all of their registration.php files are loaded, as well as, if you have a theme, then all the registration file of those themes are also loaded. And altogether, a complete list of components is created that is available in Magento. And then your application is bootstrapped. And then all these things come back to the index.php and you see the response on the browser. So that's how the whole application is being initialized. Let's just try to summarize once again and do let me know if you face any problems. First of all, the domain is pointed to the pub folder, and under that we have a index.php. So whenever you are running any URL in the browser, this index.php file is called in the browser. This index.php file loads this bootstrap.php, and that's where we bootstrap the application. To bootstrap the application, you need to collect the list of all the components and plugins or modules, whatever you call them. You need to collect list of them together, and you need to, load them. And that is a heavy duty work that is done with autoload.php, which essentially is using Composer because Magento is heavily dependent on Composer for its dependency management. So with this Composer and autoload, we collect all the list of, modules where we have any type of, registration.php, whereas it is, whatever it is, if it is a command line or it's a simple module, or if it's a theme, or if it's a language file, or if, any other type of module that is available in the system, all of those modules are collected together. And to identify those modules, Magento has a fixed structure that you would have to create a registration.php file. So all of those are loaded together, and that's where you get the list of all these registration files. Within these registration file, the component registrar actually register these components in the system, and this would be available to the bootstrap so that the application can be bootstrapped. So this is the overall journey of Magento application initialization. Thank you very much.